What's up, auto buyers? The Honda Jazz has long been the default choice for a reliable and practical hatchback. Now, in its latest trim, RS, Honda is pushing the Jazz to sportier territory. What we have here is the Mazda 2, the segment's known sporty choice. Once we pit both cars against each other, who do you think will win? The Honda Jazz or the Mazda 2? Let's check it out. Okay, Auto Buyers Nation, so we'll do the Honda Jazz RS first. So last year, Honda came out with the RS version of its very successful Honda Jazz subcompact hatchback. And for those who don't know, RS usually denotes the sporty or the sportiest variant of a range. Honda calls the RS road sailing, which kind of sounds a bit weird, but well, a Honda with an RS badge is pretty cool. Let's just say it's pretty cool. So the Jazz with the RS badge gets revised aesthetic gear. It comes with the blackened 16-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Bridgestone Turanza tires. So compared to the other car, the Mazda 2, this car has the more aggressive tire profiles. Now, it also gets RS specific bumpers in the front. You can see it's more aggressively styled. And then out back, it has the wing. The rear wing is what denotes the sportiness of a model because it's taken from racing. Also new for the Jazz RS are the LED accenting that you get up front in the headlights. But overall, the RS version of the Jazz is just an aesthetic upgrade over the model below it. So what you're paying more for is really a visual upgrade. And in terms of the engine, in terms of the suspension, there's nothing different from the one below it. Okay, so what's hot about the Honda Jazz RS? Well, first things first, what people really appreciate about the Jazz is the generous space you get inside. As an everyday car for a subcompact hatchback, you really get generous seating, generous luggage space, and I believe that's the biggest thing that buyers of this vehicle will really like. The second thing that's hot about the Honda Jazz is the versatility. Given its hatchback configuration, you really get to put a lot of gear in the back. Like maybe you can fit in 2 mountain bikes. Of course, you got to remove the front wheel. Basically, it's very practical. That's the second thing I think that buyers of the Jazz will really dig. Now, the other thing that I think buyers will come to like with the Jazz is it's pretty well equipped. You got a generous sized touchscreen for the infotainment system that's very easy to use. You got a nice climate control air conditioning system here, and then you got auto folding mirrors, you got a backup camera. So off the box, Honda equips the Jazz pretty well for people who are into tech or into those modern features. This facet of the car, the fact that it's pretty well equipped, will really appeal to them. What's not so hot about the Honda Jazz RS? Once you get in and drive, you will begin to notice that compared to the Mazda 2, this is the heavier car. And despite being up in horsepower by about, 8 to 10 horsepower more than the Mazda, this car feels a tad slower than the Mazda 2. And I think it's all about the weight. So as much as on paper you get more horsepower on the road in real world applications, well, you kind of miss the agility of the other car. In everyday driving, performance wise, the Honda Jazz is pretty adequate. It's got a 1.5 liter engine and 115 horsepower, I believe. And for city driving, that's really enough for the car of this size. Merging into traffic, it does take a little more time to get up to highway speed compared to the Mazda 2. You will notice that, and I believe, yeah, the CVT does play a part in that. And also, the brakes of this car could be better modulated. When you apply the brakes initially, there's a very strong bite. So you gotta be more judicious with your pressure on the brake pedal. In terms of ride comfort, the Honda Jazz RS is also okay. You do hear some rattles, and the NVH, noise vehicle harshness, might be better in the Mazda 2, but overall it's okay. It's not a harsh riding hatchback. Alright, so now we go to the Mazda 2 V Plus hatchback. Now, Mazda has a lot going for this car because it won Car of the Year a few years back. So why mess with the winning formula, right? But last year, they decided to infuse some new changes to the vehicle. Like, they put some additional chrome accenting on the front. The side mirrors get revised LED signal lights. But the biggest change, the interior also gets a new steering wheel, which they lifted from the bigger brother Mazda 3. But the biggest change, I think, for this car is that Mazda installed the G-vectoring feature on the vehicle. What is G-vectoring? Essentially, it's a software that unites the engine and the braking system so that when it senses how much steering input you're actually applying, it then adjusts either braking or the throttle input, and this in turn affects handling. So what you get is a car that talks to the various components, and the end product is a handling experience or a driving experience that is more pure, that is more focused on driving enjoyment. And from the get-go, you really get a sense of that with the Mazda 2. Let's talk about performance. The Mazda 2 is equipped with a 1.5 liter engine, just like the Jazz, but it's slightly down on horsepower. I think it makes something like 104 or 105 horsepower. On paper, yes, it's less powerful than the Jazz, but on the road, when you're actually driving it, you feel that this car is more sprightly. There's more verve into how the vehicle performs. And I think a large part has to do with weight. It's a lighter vehicle, and also it's equipped with a automatic transmission, a standard 6-speed, I believe, which in real world performance, it just feels crisper, and it's more responsive compared to the one that we have in the Honda. Steering response is also very accurate. You really feel one with the car, and this is one philosophy that Mazda espouses. It's Jinba Itai, or pardon my Japanese, but it's the rider and horse being one. And you feel that with how the car is built. When you're driving normally, the steering, there's little slack, and then when you pick up the pace, it's like the car wants to play as well. And it really affirms that this is the more driver-centric car among the two. Ride quality-wise, the Mazda 2, well, it's a pleasant surprise. I was expecting this car, since it's a shorter wheelbase, it's a smaller car compared to the Jazz, that the ride was going to be a little more choppy. But once I got acquainted with the car, the ride quality is actually pretty nice. You know, there's enough compliance with the suspension that you don't feel like you're bouncing around even when you're going through Manilas. You know, braking input is more progressive, so it doesn't surprise you when you step on the pedal. You know, there's a more progressive feel, more progressive bite to the car's braking system. Okay, so the V Plus model is like the mid-range variant of the Mazda 2 family. There is a higher end variant, I think they call it the R, which has more exterior and interior upgrades. Being the mid-range model, it's decently equipped. It's got Bluetooth radio, it's got a backup camera, it has USB ports. So let's go to the things that I like about the Mazda 2. Well, first thing you have to like is the performance of the whole vehicle. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the more driver-centric car, and immediately when you get in and you drive it down the road, you pick up speed, you feel connected, that you won't mind driving this car for long distances, even if it's, you know, pretty intimate inside because it's smaller than the Jazz. It's, for me, the car you would want to take on a long road trip. As you go through the highway, you take it to winding roads. This is the car that you'll derive more enjoyment from. And you also have to love that despite the sporty nature, fuel efficiency is not bad. Driving around Metro Manila, we were getting around 8.1 kilometers per liter. And that's not really bad for a car such as this. And the second thing that I think viewers out there will like about the Mazda 2 is the crisp styling. Mazda has the Kodo, or it has the Kodo look going for the whole range of vehicles, from the 3 to the MX-5, even now to the CX models. And in this application for the Mazda 2, it gives a very clean looking, well, I'd say, yeah, a little sporty. You know, it doesn't have the aggressive body kit that the Jazz RS has, but on its own, it looks nice. It looks nice. It's balanced, and you know, I feel that in this trim, the V Plus, it's just itching for more upgrades, like bigger wheels. You can put, you know, suspension upgrades, engine upgrades, and yeah, in this trim the V Plus, you know, there's so many things you can do just to spruce it up. So styling out of the box is good already for me, and can be easily improved upon with a few upgrades. Now, the third thing that I would really recommend, or that I really like with the Mazda 2, is the build quality. Drive both cars back to back and you'll notice that this car just feels more solid. You know, you hear less rattles, and it just feels like a more resolute car when you're piloting it down the road. So, you know, for a subcompact hatchback, I was pleasantly surprised at how well the whole package was built. Now, what's not so hot with the car? Well, for starters, space is really scarce when it comes to the Mazda 2 interior. Seating space up front is okay. It's okay for long travel, but when you move out in the back, then it starts to get really cramped. Also, it's not as versatile in swallowing cargo like the Jazz. The Jazz has a taller roof, and when the seats fold back, you can you know, cram in a lot of things. With this car, you're more limited, so that's a big consideration for, you know, all the auto buyers out there. Okay, auto buyers, unfortunately, we gotta pick a winner. And as much fun as we had driving both cars, well, we gotta come up with a decision. The Mazda 2 V Plus in hatchback form retails for about $860,000, give or take, and it's significantly, well, more affordable than the $1 million plus Honda Jazz RS. Now, for that amount of money, you can really bump up the fun factor of this car by putting in more accessories, engine upgrades, suspension upgrades. But at the end of the day, we feel that the Honda Jazz is the more complete car. It's got more comfort, more space, more tech features. And for someone who's buying a car, you want the complete package. And the Honda Jazz RS is exactly that, a more complete package. So we pick it as our winner for our subcompact hatchback Comparo. So there you have it, our subcompact hatchback Comparo. Be sure to click on our website, autobuyers.ph, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and also check us out on YouTube under Autobuyers Philippines. Feel free to leave your comments and let us know what other cars you want us to review. Thanks and catch you next time.